just 8 years old, Pham became a refugee of the Vietnam War. Her parents put her on a small boat where she spent 10 days at sea and 6 months at the refugee camp in Malaysia. Decades later, her daughter Sarah Pham explores her mother's diaspora through poetry.
Mama, can you tell me the story of your escape from Vietnam?
It was shortly after the war.
It was 1980.
And my parents, who are your grandparents, decided that they would go ahead and let me go first without them.
You were 8 years old.
And we were in a small dark room.
Ba, your mother was sewing gold in your shirt seams. Oh, your father was in shadows pushing freedom up by its shoulders.
To give me a future is to take that risk and put me on that boat.
So when the communists started building concentration camps out of sandcastles, you ran to ship, afloat in Saigon ashes, sang Vut Bien Si songs in tropical storm, tossed boat and identity into same belly. Mama, how could you still love water after swallowing an ocean of trauma?
I think when I was first on the boat and in the storm, the cold water at night flooding through the boat was terrifying. But there was a moment during the boat trip that I was able to come up to the surface, and there I could see dolphins swimming. They say dolphins are lucky.
So when currents pulled you far from home, refugee camp in Malaysia, you learned to swim between fault lines of seawater and soul, became courageous girl gazing at the horizon.
The sea is beautiful in that when I was at camp, I would look out to the sea and knew that I wouldn't be stuck here forever. And it was hope because I knew that on the other side of the sea was where my parents were, and that one day I would be able to see them again.
Even when alone, sea cradled your hurt, you holding on to sea glass, your laughter brushed ashore, swimming into sunset. You knew only this: love survives.
Just as the sea has storms and huge waves, but if we're able to harness that energy and ride like the wave riders, the surf riders, we can come safely to shore and enjoy that ride.
So here, floating on salted waters, above shadows, in the places where freedom sails, I find my mother. Here, where sea meets shore, trauma and resilience converge. For RadioActive, this is Sarah Pham.
Ruby Lee's great aunt Sue immigrated to the U.S. from Seoul, South Korea when she was 16, about a year older than Ruby is now. Sue even graduated from Rainier Beach High School, where Ruby will be a sophomore. Ruby wants to learn more about her family's history and her own racial identity, so she sat down with Sue to ask about it. Here's Ruby.
I'm Korean and Irish, which makes me biracial. My Irish family came to the U.S. a long time ago, but for my Korean side, coming to America is more recent history.
I didn't have a friend. When you move to a new country, you don't have a friend.
That's my great aunt, Sue Lim. She came to the U.S. when she was my age.
Moving to completely new culture like I did at my age, 15 and a half and 16, sweet 16, you are probably at the height of the emotional hormones. And here you are dealing with all these social pressures. And in my opinion, I think that was the worst time.
Sue is the second youngest of 7 sisters, and my grandma is the oldest. They all came to the U.S. at different times, so they grew up separately, and they all had different experiences immigrating to the U.S.
You know, Ruby, it is a very disconnect, a very strange family relationship, but, you know, we just did what we needed to do.
Talking to my great aunt, Sue, made me realize how little I actually know about my family's history, and that history isn't always one collective story. Instead, it's a messy combination of memories and perspectives.
But you do know, deep in your heart, that we're related, so you just kind of move on from there. So it's very interesting, isn't it?
While talking with her, she told me a story about going on camping trips with my grandma.
We eat a lot, and then we just laugh a lot. And then at that time, I played guitar, so we have campfire, and I would play guitar and I would sing along.
When I was younger, our whole family would go on camping trips. I didn't know about these ones my aunt talked about, but it was nice to see how the tradition had carried on. I think it's our responsibility as young people to collect as much of these memories and stories as we can from our relatives, both near and distant. If we don't, the beauty and pride of our heritage will be lost and gone forever. I asked Sue if she had any advice for me about school and life.
Make most out of your situation, whatever that is. Look for opportunities to further yourself and follow your passion.
At the end of the day, it's taking those stories and that history and running with it. Because no matter what race I am or where I come from, I know who I am and what I'm passionate about. From RadioActive, this is Ruby Lee.